Continue.
All right, Mr. Terry Morris.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Terry Morris. I am the national president for BDPA, and we'll talk more about that. And also serve as an advisor for racial justice at Eli Lilly and Company, where I've been for 20 years. Um, I'm super excited about the work that Dr. Black and this consortium is doing, and look forward to digging in a bit more about how platforms like HBCUs, of which I'm an alum, Florida A&M, can be leveraged to help improve our diversity in data science.
All right, Mr. Wayne Howell.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here. My name is Wayne Howell Jr. I've been in the cybersecurity field for close to 10 to 15 years. Currently work for Apple. I also serve as an external advisory board member for Bowie State University, and also graduated. I'm also a graduate from Bowie State University as well. So I'm glad to be here to speak on this panel as well.
All right, so let's get right into it. I'm gonna direct the first question to Ms. Kennedy. So, Ms. Kennedy, what are some tools that are available to assist HBU faculty and researchers in data science?
Perfect. So I'm going to share my screen because I only did one chart. And so fortunately, that was the question that leads straight into that chart. So I'm going to share it now.
Great.
And my goal is that we are all able to walk away from this discussion, seeing the resources. When we talk about what industry can do, in addition to what we can do, here are the assets that are available out there today. So let's put that into a current page. Now, hopefully I can move you to the top of the screen. Yes, that worked great. Basically, I really wanted to convey that the way we want to accelerate engagement with our HBCU partners, and I specifically say partners because I summarized on this one page, I am the person in IBM that is the HBCU strategist. And I requested that years ago. So when I talk about working with HBCU schools for several years now, this is going down the path of being part of HBCU Week, working with the Congressional Black Caucus and other key leaders. Here are some of the things though that have changed even in the last week. On my screen, I try to highlight just by going to our main interface for academic institutions in the URL below, the very first block here represents data sets. One of the key things our students need when they start working in data science, you know, data sets that have been cleansed, data sets that have not been cleansed, large data sets. We have data sets that are the volume and capacity that the students will start working on as they get out into industry. To help our faculty, that second box, which is open data set DS for all. This is curriculum that's been developed with other higher education organizations so that faculty can come in here and build and pick and choose the curriculum they want to build out their data science curriculum. The third box, getting started with enterprise data science. All of our students need to be introduced to what data science means today. And when I say all, I mean all. Not just our students in CS, not just our students in the engineering school. I say all because right now on my phone, I have an application that's telling me something that we've all been checking lately. This application tells me for the 13 million people in the state of Illinois, the daily new COVID cases are 14.8 per 100 million. The infection rate is decreasing. We're currently at 0.81. We have a positive test rate of 3.8 and an ICU capacity usage right now at 61%. We all know I'm talking about COVID-19. These are metrics that appear on the 6 o'clock news. So we were talking about this a year ago. This is when information was just coming out. We really didn't have a grasp on it. These are data points that are being discussed in neighborhoods. These are data points. We expect those in our medical fields to be able to know and articulate. These are data points we expect our mayors and our governors to be able to share with us in their plans for going forward. So when I point to this third box here that says getting started with enterprise data science, this is a 5-hour course on average that every faculty and every student can take. This is like psychology, sociology, so they understand the core of what these resources are. And then that final box that you see on my screen, that box is really resources for a complete integrated data science 75-hour, 3-credit-hour course where we train faculty and then provide everything that they need to train their students. Infrastructure, everything included. So this is some of what we have in IBM that's available for the faculty at HBCUs and the students at HBCUs to be able to leverage and share. So I just wanted to give that answer, but also give you some data points on there is so much out here. Here's how we try to organize it through my team and myself to work with HBCUs specifically. And I'll turn it back to you.
All right. Would Mr. Morris or Mr. Howell would like to add to Ms. Kennedy's statements?
Sorry, I had to find the unmute. Was hard to follow Ms. Kennedy as she did a masterful job talking about some of IBM's rich capabilities. I actually had the pleasure of working for IBM on a co-op 20 years ago while a student at FAMU. You know, there in my job at Lilly for the previous 5 years, I built information capabilities in a healthcare context. We were actively seeking to aggregate information across various clinical results and operations domains aimed at increasing our ability to enable access to medicine as quick as the science would allow. Well, we saw this year, and I'll ride Ms. Kennedy's COVID line of thinking, that we had pharmaceutical companies that were able to pivot to go from not actively working on a medicinal product to exploring the targets, to getting something to testing it, and then making that product readily available to the market as a vaccine or a monoclonal antibody, which is what Lilly has produced, to help provide some relief in some cases. In other cases, it provides a preventative measure. Well, data is at the core of that entire continuum. And I can tell you, within BDPA, we are an organization that was founded back in 1975 because there were two individuals that looked around and didn't see anybody else like themselves. And they said, one, we need to help each other, and we need to build a platform to support and grow more people of color in data processing at that point. Now, fast forward 46 years later, we are anchored in helping to enable more opportunities for Black and brown people around these United States. We got 30 chapters that are anchoring the support of our community. One of the areas that we're actively focusing on now are also two. One is our college chapters. We are actively building college chapters at historically Black colleges around the country. One of our first is at Florida A&M, and Dr. Black is our faculty leader. We have also recently doubled down in creating a new program for data science, our data science academy, aimed at providing persistent resources to students who are pursuing an academic experience in data science. So I guess the short version is that there are resources available en masse. We are intending to aggregate more of them and have a platform of accessibility for HBCUs around the country.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, just to add a little bit to that, I know some of the things that I've been doing is really working with Bowie State in terms of how we want to gear and steer the direction in terms of what data science looks like in the cybersecurity field. So in terms of this is the type of data sets that we kind of want to go after. Here are the kind of programs that we want to kind of introduce to kind of move us forward and move us forward and actually bring it together. What does data science look like in cybersecurity? So some of those programs are just starting to come out. So hopefully you'll see more of those things come to light that other colleges may be able to influence and use as well.
Thank you, panelists. Moving to our next question that I'm going to direct to Mr. Morris. What are some of the most interesting trends in data science for 2021?
Well, you know, the pace of technology, you know, nobody can keep up with it. I mean, you know, you can have all of these tools that flow at your direction based on rules that you've set up. Google Trends is Google Alerts is one of my favorite ones to just I go out there and set it up and just tell me stuff about whatever every day. And so I start by saying you can't keep up with this stuff. But I will acknowledge that groups like IBM and their robust capabilities that we all were exposed to Watson many years ago, or multiple years ago, now it sits behind many complex solutions that whether you know it today or not, particularly in the healthcare context, they've been doing pretty provocative things in that arena. But I'll say that for Ms. Kennedy. But I have been super impressed with some of the lighter weight levers that Microsoft's Power Platform has enabled. I've been able to leverage it for many of the solutions that I have used in my world, and it's been, you know, you got the range of possibilities that the Power Platform enable, and the BI and the visualization capabilities for novices are robust, but it can go up to the advanced level. So I guess I just offer that, you know, be a learner in this context because the solutions are going to change. The buttons are going to change persistently because the capabilities are not stagnant.
Would any of our other panelists like to add?
Yeah, I'll add to that. So some of the trends that I've seen for 2021 is really around the use of social media usage, but also around the use of data privacy. So if you think about it from the perspective of all the particular data sets that's being used to generate all these ads for us, all these particular data sets being used to capture and profile us. These are some of the things that we look at from a cybersecurity perspective with everyone going virtual, everyone sharing everything. You know, it's really interesting to see how much data is being shared and what can we do to kind of source that and really look at that information to see where our pain points are. So those are some of the things that I see continuing the trend from this year moving on. As more people stay home, trying to come away from COVID, or just practically just using all these particular devices, I look at that as being one of the things that's going to really transform society as we start to move forward and really transform how we look at data, how we manage our data, and also how we look at it from a security perspective and also from a privacy perspective. That's what I kind of see.
And I think the two gentlemen really hit the nail on the head, because what we're seeing is a lot of these technologies converging. So when we talk about cybersecurity, we are needing data science to understand the volume of information out there. That's how the person with the ill intent really is able to disrupt our daily lives. So we all know that in retail, you know, we want to be able to go online and make our purchases. And so that person with the ill intent uses that same entry point that customer uses to get in and be disruptive. So we've got to make sure there's accessibility, but at the same time, we've got to protect the data that we are entrusted with. And we all are entrusted with data. So think about it. When you put a tweet out there, if somebody changes it, and now your whole network clicks on that tweet, and now the virus becomes part of their personal network and their business network, they have been able to use that backbone to come in through something as, you know, unassuming as a tweet and become an infectious entity. So we have to think very much like in cybersecurity, it's like COVID-19. What are the things we could do to protect ourselves? Data is really the livelihood now of how we succeed, not just as companies, but as individuals. So I talked about the metrics for COVID-19. Even more recently, think about the data coming out of Texas. You know, they had this major event happen because of not having their infrastructure winterized. So they had, solar energy, they had wind energy, they had coal, they had nuclear power plants. And so they had all this great technology, and they had really positioned themselves to not be needed to be part of the overall grid. But what happened? Mother Nature. Mother Nature disrupted everything. So, they had isolated so that they had all these failover systems, except they hadn't had a failover system strategy in place for Mother Nature. Versus one of the other states near them had similar problems, but because they were part of the grid and had processes in place for scalability, rolloverability, all of these things. So they leveraged the technologies in the most effective way. So data science is part of that. When you look at the Weather Channel, and I, as an IBMer, was looking at the news the other day, like, what's that IBM logo in the lower right-hand corner? Wait a second. Oh yeah, we have all those weather centers out there. This is how we leverage the technology, weather data coming in. We have to prepare. How does that affect industry? Well, it affects retail because now they know where to now stock up on certain supplies and assets, the winterization tools that are needed to keep our cars going, to keep our homes warm. Hospitals, how do you make sure you're planning for people who might be coming in because of this major change in weather? Security, how do you make sure you're secure across all these platforms based on events that occur that you have to be able to respond to? So the technologies, what I'm seeing is the convergence of all these technologies. And as Mr. Morris said, it's always changing. So how do we prepare our students to be not only prepared the day they graduate, but be that continuous learner so they can have the skills necessary to be successful, not just to get the job, but to keep the job and grow in the job.
Great. All right, we're going to move on to our next question, which is going to be directed to Mr. Howell. What are some of the biggest challenges in the data science industry at the moment?
I think that some of the challenges is that we don't have enough people focusing on the security aspect of things. Right now we have people just taking, they have the limited knowledge of understanding exactly what they do currently in terms of here are some of the data sets and I know how to transform the data, but really we need more people in the industry to kind of transform that data to give us output. So I would like for us to take initiatives to kind of take our students and people kind of don't have enough information or nice skill sets to give them opportunities to kind of do some forward thinking and branching out to say, hey, I want to go work on some cybersecurity initiatives related to data science. I want to go see exactly how I can transform this data set and make it a reasonable output so that it's real world, someone from actually can benefit from the real world exercise here. So I think that that's kind of where I see it as an issue here, is because we need more data scientists to actually come and help us, right? We need you guys to help us move this cloud forward so we can get more systems in place that actually do real-time analysis, more systems that do deep level analysis. So we need those type of things in place. And I don't think we're there yet, but we're still working to kind of bring some of those things in place. Some companies have those things up to speed, but we still need more. The data sets right now are vast. It's so much out there, so much data out there to consume. So we need better data models to kind of help classify and organize those things for us. That's the biggest thing I see so far.
Would any of our other panelists like to add to those comments?
Sure. And I'll say I'm speaking this maybe through a bit of bias, but bias, particularly over the past 12 months, while it has been the lived experiences for many of us to know that that their biases informing the experiences that we have day to day. In terms of person-to-person connection, but there are also biases that are actively occurring through the processes that are driven by someone not necessarily getting the implications on that thing for, say, people of color. And I go back to COVID-19. We're seeing the real world evidence of bias in how even distribution of COVID is occurring in various states around the U.S. But what if there were someone who could bring their life experience to and contextualize the data that they are looking at to inform a different model that would drive a different solution? Mm-hmm. Well, we might actually save lives. So this becomes real meat and potatoes and real life and death by not having enough representation to help inform the right solution. So that to me is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, area of opportunity for data science, is getting more people of color who can translate the implications of some of the most critical decisions that are being made in the times that we're living in.
Ms. Kennedy, would you like to add anything?
I was going to be quiet, but since you asked, right now there's a year-to-year 5% growth in the number of data scientists that are needed. So here in 2021, there's a need for 60,000 data scientists, not business analysts, data scientists. And data scientists, that's a hard animal to develop. That is someone who, as my fellow panelists covered, they not only get the math and the algorithms and the science, they can articulate it in a way to solve a business or societal problem. So we all know who Dr. Fauci is because he's taken the science and made it relevant to our life, literally to our life. So we understand when he summarizes the message, we understand the years of his expertise in this space. And on the 6 o'clock news, or on the news that we bring up, when we see Dr. Fauci say, wear a double mask, and he says, it gives you 95% increased protection, we understand what that means. He's a trusted source. He's a vetted source. He is a source that we recognize. If we don't do what he says, we are putting ourselves at risk because he has the science behind the recommendations he's making. And we look for that, whether that's in the COVID-19 battle, whether that's in the bias of data, where the right communities who had the highest instances of COVID-19 seem to be showing up with getting the least amount of the vaccine distribution. So now people get to ask those questions, not because it's an anecdotal story, but because we have the data. And then we can make real-time decisions on changing our distribution models and leveraging things like our churches, where we recognize trust is there with the Black community and the community for people of color. So we need more students in this space. We need more of our HBCU students in this space so they could help us address the bias by bringing data to the discussion and showing, when we look at it from that point of view, it's really hard to push back on the need to change our policies.
All right, great. So I have this next question, and I'm gonna allow each of you to respond to this question. The question is, what are some of the critical changes that HBU faculty and researchers can make to be ready for the future of data science? And we'll start with Mr. Morris.
Well, I'm glad I can go first because I'm sure they'll have some cleanup to do. Because the tools and the philosophies around data are just evolving at warp speed, it is difficult for any institution to keep up and bring about relevant exposure, modern experiences persistently. But I believe that is the differentiation and the competitive edge that could be differentiating for HBCUs, to find ways to bring the industry's real world experiences into the classroom. So yes, you need data structures as much as I hated it. You need it. But in addition to the foundation, in addition to the theory, we have to find ways to turn up the volume on the application, the real world application, using the modern tools. Because I think sometimes we don't give that part of the experience of our students the real weight that it deserves. I think that I've seen it more secondary. We got to find a way to turn up the energy and the priority associated with applied experiences with modern tools And I know that they're industry partners that are looking for creative ways to connect in with the students and the faculty, so we can find a way to connect those two things. I think we'll find a way to increasing the competitive edge of the talent coming out of our great institutions.
All right, Mr. Howell, so I can take a stab at it.
Yeah, just to piggyback on some of the things that he said here, you know, I think it really starts with the curriculum, right? It really starts with what we're actually teaching our actual students and what we're actually preparing them for. I know when I went to college, you know, we were really prepared for C++, right? That was a big thing, C++, right? Everyone knew C++. But in today's age, you know, it's more web-oriented frameworks. So you want to be able to learn Go, you need to learn Python, scripting languages. You know, the landscape has changed so much, so we need to actually prepare them for what the future is and what we're currently using in today's market today. So I think that's one of the things that we kind of need to do as it relates back to data science, but also as it relates to practically all disciplines, right? You know, we really should be preparing all of our students for what we currently use in today's market, right? What the actual real world is actually using. But alongside that, yes, you have the curriculum, but you also need to give them opportunities to go learn and go develop some of these competencies, right? You know, we need to give out classwork or things like that to have them go out and think about what real world examples are. Or we need to work with our industry partners, such as myself and IBM and all the other companies, to kind of say, hey, we have some ideas on how we can leverage, tell me your problem so we can go solve it, right? So we can build from the HBCU perspective, we can build in redundancy in our program so we can say, hey, we have a capstone project. We would like to do something for you. We want to take one of your issues and go develop a program based around that. So there are some things we can do to actually bring those things into place. I think that's kind of where we want to focus.
All right, and save the best for last, Ms. Kennedy.
You know, I will tell you that I have been at an HBCU with my Apple partners, and I have helped with the labs. And so what was just said becomes so important because we have to get comfortable with this technology. All of us now, when we went through COVID-19, telemedicine became a way for delivery of a critical skill for all of us. So we have to get comfortable with technology and apply it in the areas where our discipline takes us. And so when we have that conversation, as the gentleman said previously, we need the curriculum and tools, because none of us want to show up in the operating room and the surgeon takes out a plunger. Those are the tools for the plumber. We want the surgeon to take out the tools for us. And we expect to see a scalpel, we expect to see anesthesia, but that's what we expect to see. The same thing applies to what we're talking about. The students have to get comfortable with this set of tools. And the tools are industry tools that keep the planes in the air, that keep the hospital doors open, and the food on the shelf and the toilet paper on the shelf. And so we want the students to leverage this in the curriculum. We want the students and the faculty to leverage these tools. So that's why I just did the one page. It's like, here's how we can go and get this education. And you even had Mr. Morris talk about, here's how IBM's done things with this artificial intelligence over time. Artificial intelligence is merging with data science, which is merging with cybersecurity. And if you don't believe that, take an intro course on quantum computing, because it's going to wipe out everything we take for granted right now in cybersecurity in one swoop. So I would recommend for all of my 102 HBCU schools out there, partner with industry. We want to partner with you because it's only through you will we get the skill sets that we need. And we need the HBCU schools to take the lead here, because remember, during the financial crisis, the crux of it was identified by the one person who actually went through and did the math and said, this is not possible. So it doesn't take 60,000 people. It takes the one person to take the lead to teach everybody else. And we want to have our HBCU schools take the lead. As a graduate of West Virginia State University, who also had that famous computer, Katherine Johnson, she did the math. And that's how we were able to return men from space. And they trusted her math because she was the best at delivering it. So we as HBCUs can be the best at data science. She's proven it.
All right. So at this time, we're going to open the floor up for questions from the attendees. So do we have any questions?
think I see one here about incorporating industry certifications in data science curriculums.
Yes. So yes, that is a question. That says yeah.
You know, I'll share thoughts and here this is art. You know, there is no one way, no one pattern of learning for any one individual. But I can tell you that companies like the one I work for, Eli Lilly, will be leveraging that as one of the vehicles to help ensure some normalized understanding of best practices and our advanced techniques. I mean, there's a framework called the 70-20-10 rule. Well, that's about learning development. It suggests that 70% of your learning occurs on the job, 20% through resources, coaches, mentors, and 10% through structured learning experiences and certifications. And so it's the whole that is required for the best and most versatile resources. Certifications will have a role to play, but they won't be the only role to play in making up the most diverse and well-rounded contributors in data science.
I will share that Friday, we announced as IBM in our IBM Academic Initiative program, IBM Academic Initiative, data science for everyone. So 5-hour course, and then when you complete it, you get a badge certificate. So these stackable credentials are really great because it allows our students to take time now when they have a snow day and spend 5 hours or 3.5 hours or 8 hours for cybersecurity and get these credentials that they then can publish on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. So they get that one, and then they get that next one, and then they get that next one. It's a great way for them to start doing things where they have these certificates. So when they graduate from our HBCUs, they have a degree and they have all these industry badges / certificates that go with that degree. And hopefully it sets with them the mindset of they have to keep learning to stay relevant in their discipline. But it also gives industry the feel that when they graduate, they've got some industry credentials in addition to that critical HBCU degree. So I do think certificates, and I said certificates, certifications take longer. So badges and certificates give ourselves and our students a way to get some of these new skills as we go day to day. So you probably guessed I graduated some 3 decades ago, but we won't go into that. But my most recent credentials are on things that were not part of my higher education learning at West Virginia State University. My recent credentials are in cybersecurity or in artificial intelligence, cloud computing, and quantum computing conversations. So certificates with our partners, I think really help the students to the point that Mr. Morris made. It's going to keep changing. We got to get them in a mindset of it's going to keep changing in a way we are all going to keep up. And I say we, not just them, but myself included, is through these certificates and badges and other education opportunities.
And just to add a little bit to that, I mean, you guys put it eloquently so good here. The only thing that I would probably add to this is that, you know, you want to make sure that you have a good understanding of what the underlying field is. I wouldn't so much as harp on certifications, although in our area, they are used to separate the field, right? So you do want to make sure that you can actually acquire them, but at the same time, make sure you have a good understanding of everything that you're looking at, right? So, you know, if you're studying cybersecurity, make sure you understand all the principles of CIA triad. Make sure you understand, you know, access control. Make sure you understand those things. If you're studying data science, make sure you understand, you know, how you normalize your data, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that, you know, we look at it from certifications, they are important. They will play a role as you move up the ladder, but at the same time, make sure you have a good understanding of the foundation, because that is the most important thing that you can always fall back on, right? Even if you don't have a certification, you have the founding knowledge of whatever your particular field is. So I think that's the piece that we want to kind of focus when we drive the curriculum. But correct me if I'm wrong, someone here, I thought that colleges can't persuade you to get certifications, but they can only teach you the curriculum. I think that's accurate. Someone correct me on that.
So what I'm seeing, Mr. Howell, is a lot of the schools I'm partnering with, they are incorporating some of our programs into their curriculum. So the student gets the 3 credit hour class, so gets 3 credit hours and the certificate. So in high school, we do that a lot now too. So my son and daughter, they graduated and they got recognition that they had completed Spanish. And so they got this recognition that actually went with their diploma on their Spanish qualifications that's recognized by business. So we're seeing that combination because we do recognize it takes a while to get through the approval process for our schools. So that's why I referenced lots of times the schools will roll out our programs with special topics. Things are moving fast. They don't have 2 years to get that Regents approval, but the students are saying, I want a data science course. So they offer it to all their students through a special topics course. And typically those are filling up fast because the students see the opportunity and they want to take advantage of it. And then they can post that badge out on LinkedIn. And when people start questioning and liking it, even the faculty have commented, people that they've not heard from in years are saying, you've got that, congratulations. So we want to work with schools to make that happen because you make an important point there.
All right, I think we have about 2 minutes left. Are there any more questions from the attendees? Okay, so they would like for you all to share your contact information via the chat.
Okay.
And also, Mr. Morris, there's a question for you about the curriculum you spoke about for the BDPA. All right.
So I need to be off mute to talk, evidently. The BDPA is actively partnering with a group of leaders, Dr. Black included, to frame up an experience for our data science seeking students. Our intention within the BDPA framework, we have a bi-weekly career talk and tech talk. So we invite technology companies, Google, Amazon, are examples that are coming up here in March and April. We can have IBM as well, Ms. Kennedy, we can talk later. But they will be talking about their cloud capabilities using that platform. We will also be indexing on specific experiences for data scientists, or those students that are seeking to be data scientists in the future, and finding ways to infuse experiences in our students so that my 15-year-old daughter who is in our BDPA programs can be exposed to data science and how it can be a solution pattern for the problems of today and tomorrow. So, check out bdpa.org, invite you to become a member, and there are student rates that we can help make that easier for you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Morris. So this concludes our panel discussion, and I'm going to turn it back over to Jason. Dr. Black.
No, Jason is fine. Jason is fine. All right, thank you all, panel. Great job, and we definitely want to continue this discussion. So we are now moving into our next breakout session, which will allow you all to discuss some of these things you heard today from the industry panel, as well as to form some possible collaborations and synergy around some of those ideas. So if you look in the Hoover agenda for the next item on the agenda, there is a link in there that you can click on. That will take you directly to that session. So you'll have to leave this session to go to that breakout. And then once that's back to this link to close out today. So we will see you over there in just a few minutes. Also, remember, when you go to the breakouts, make sure that when you go into your room that someone is designated as a recorder to take some notes on what's discussed. And then that person needs to, if you can, upload what was discussed, like a short summary or briefing of what you discussed in your breakout in the Share Your Moments forum on the Hoover app. So if you're having trouble doing that, you can email it directly to me or any of the leads of the consortium, and then we can get it in. But that's going to help us do some further discussions that we're going to do tomorrow. So Thank you all, and move on to the next breakout session.